Hi, everybody, and welcome to the Jim and Sam Town Square. I'm Scott King. Jim and Sam fans know me from the Forbes articles, and I'm joined, as always, by multi-Emmy award-winning television producer Chris Cangilla. In this episode, recapping week 4 of October 2023, things are getting spooky, Chris, and I know that you did another poll and heard back from more fans. Is that right?
Yeah, I like that we're interacting with our fans and our listeners and viewers. But yeah, I put out there, the poll question was a simple one. Were you surprised by Jim's marriage? And I think we all can kind of guess what the result was, but overwhelmingly it was a yes. I think everybody was surprised at when it happened. Down the road, and we never thought Jim would get married, so that was kind of cool. And then we also put in a question, and this question was, if you remember, they were talking about guys that got married too early, in their relationship. Or maybe when they're young. And so I put that out there, did you get married early? And if so, did it last? And one of my favorite ones that I got from that Kenneth Chatwick, he's a really cool guy. He said he was 30 when he got married, and I was 30 as well. Scott, how old were you?
Oh, man. Let's see.
Oh, geez. His wife's going to
be the one. Yeah, she's going to kill me. I believe I was 28. 28.
All right. So we're about the same age as our friend Kenneth. And he said, yeah, he was 30 and that he's married to his lovely wife for 9 years, except for this little nugget. He says that she hates it when he tells her what he hears on Jim and Sam. He comes back from driving home. He listens a little later and he tells her everything that he heard on Jim and Sam, and she hates it. And I could probably agree that my wife would probably hate it if I told her everything. I just tell her a few things. So how about you? Does your wife hate when you talk about Jim and Sam?
No, she'll usually, I know what to present to her to get a positive reaction. It's usually something like a really good take on a current event or something. So usually I bring her some gold that she can
relate to.
Yeah,
absolutely. So yeah, those are our poll questions. Keep them coming, guys. The answers, and of course, do the poll, do the questions are on the Spotify thing. So keep at it. We appreciate it. On to other things. So I made a little trip downstate to Bloomington Normal, which is the home of Illinois State University. I went there for the Illinois Broadcasters Association's conference. And on the way there, right on 55, is Pontiac, Illinois. And at Pontiac, Illinois, it's home of Wallys.
Oh, man.
Yeah. So I stopped off at Wallys, one of favorites of Sam, as well as the Buc-ee's that he has people visit, and got myself a t-shirt and got my co-host a mug.
Man,
I love Wallys mug.
I love coffee mugs. Thank you.
I know. That's why I thought. So I got that one.
So nice.
And he has a little, I think that's Wally. I don't know if Wally is a character, but
I think they have talked about the character. I think it's D. Wally. That is,
there you go.
It's salute.
So howdy from Wallys. So I'll get that off to you.
Very nice. Thank you.
You bet, buddy.
Yeah, we'll have to do a lunch. I have an idea, but we'll schedule it. We'll our people will talk.
There we go. Have your people call my people.
All right. So we talked about your poll addressed the big marriage. We got the info this week. There is a lot to dissect. We've heard about Soraya being with Jim on the road for I feel like almost a year now. At least 6 months. So there's footage there, and Jim talked about how you're going to see that as a representation of Jim and his wife Nikki on YouTube. So, I mean, do you take that as a show? Do you take that as some funny videos here and there? What are you expecting?
So we found out that Jim has been married for a couple of years. He didn't get real specific, and it was just one of those government kind of go in there justice of peace kind of wedding thing, and his manager, Jonathan, was a witness. So he's been married for a couple of years and keeping that kind of quiet. And he has every right to do whatever he wants. But remember when Soraya was shooting all this video, I kept on asking, what do you think it's going to be? What is it for? What is he going to do? It has to be that they're going to do a YouTube show. Jim has alluded to that a couple times this week, that he and Nikki will be doing that. And I think he's just getting footage. And Soraya is just capturing everything that happens along the way.
Speaking of Soraya, she is going on the Burt cruise. So I mean, that's taken care of either by Jim or Burt and Company. So God bless Soraya.
Let me just say this. I'm a professional videographer, and if I knew that part of the job would be to go on cruises with Jim and go on, I would have signed up for that. That could have been a cool job, but no. Yeah, it's cool that Soraya is doing that, and I can't wait to see that stuff.
Absolutely. We learned that Jim's wife is from Norway. And they a couple times Jim and Sam alluded to a big story about this marriage that Jim's not ready to dive into yet, but he will. I mean, this is, obviously tinfoil hats. We're not going to know till we know, but was there some crazy kind of visa issue? Was there a crazy ex-boyfriend? Like, there's some story here that Jim keeps talking about. I can't wait to hear it. Sam had a really good point that the normalcy of the relationship, like in the videos, the way they're bickering and she's kind of making fun about the posters, like that's the normal part. Everyone, some people might assume it's the trans thing, but Jim's dealt with that that's what he's into. He's dealt with that his whole, a lot of his life, as we know. So just seeing them bickering on video is pretty funny.
Yeah, going back to the whole thing from her being from Norway, Jim keeps on alluding to, I want to tell the story, but I think Nikki needs to be here and tell the story as well. So I can't wait until we really get to have her either on the Jim and Sam show or on the YouTube show, telling about her story. And he also talked about that 90-day fiance, and watching those shows was a big help. And that Sam actually said, "Oh, you got to get married fast." Yeah, because if she is truly coming over from Norway and doesn't want to get deported, that's maybe something that kind of sped things up. Jim said maybe a little bit. And so that was kind of cool. And then what you talked about with the normalcy of Jim is what's the funny part, him being domesticated after being single that's the funny part. And you're exactly right. It's not what the other people might think.
Yes, and with Nikki being around it was Zia. Jim said, a while. Then he kind of got said maybe a little over a year. But Zia threw out 2 years there. We're going to get into internet sleuth ERock in a minute. But so Nikki's been around, somewhere a year to 2 years. And Jim said she's been helping film stuff. So she did the TBS stuff, the Jason Sudeikis show that we saw Chip on, and we were all rooting for Chip. She helped with Ghost and Demons from Hell, did a voice. The Ghost and Demons from Hell, which we might have to revisit for Halloween here. But I mean, I just love that ERock. We got to see ERock's content, an attempt at content organically on the show. When he heard about the news while he was doing his show, tried to get Zia to talk to him, like do a double broadcast with him during a bikini stream that he apparently knows a lot about. And she said, leave a couple. Why don't you just talk in the comments, Eric?
Yeah, she put him on the pay no mind list immediately when he called in.
Absolutely.
Yeah, he was trying to get the scoop, and then he called Jim, right? Called Jim to get the scoop, and Jim never answered. It just went to voicemail. So everybody kind of put ERock on the pay no mind list, and he was blown away. He didn't know what happened and just really wanted to get to the bottom of it. God love ERock. They really love him on the show, but he is kind of a dummy.
It was amazing to listen to. Speaking of the pay no mind list, it's very apparent that the Jim and Sam program are still on the SiriusXM video department's pay no mind list. Huge marks, round of applause for Sam and Travis trying to get video of Jim's announcement. It's a big announcement when he's going to talk about his marriage and reveal it, and big moment for him, big moment for the show. And Sirius couldn't just do this is your industry, which isn't at the very least professional courtesy.
You would think. I mean, it's and think about this. Jim, I mean, we're thinking about, even going back to Opie and Anthony and Jim, this is probably the biggest personal story of any one of those guys, other than getting fired, of course, but, of any one of those guys bringing to the show. Jim, this bachelor and lived kind of hard in that world and is settling down and getting married. That's a huge thing. You think they could just fire up the cameras. It's not too much, but maybe they got a reprise later on in the week. What do you think?
Yeah, I think so. I think that it sounded like getting to the Halloween show that I don't know if we've seen the content from that, but the cameras were supposed to be rolling, right?
Yeah, I think I haven't looked at it myself, but I think they posted that that it's up on the pod now that the video is up there. So we'll see. But and the guy that runs the cameras in the video department, came in and was really super nice and stuff. It's probably not his decision. It's the executives above saying, don't waste your time on that show. Go get us some stupid, entertainment show video.
Yes, it's the mucky mucks, as regular Joe would say, a beloved Jim Norton character. And I want to get your take. We'll go point by point here, but overall, this year's Halloween show, What was it a grand slam for you, or do you feel like a couple of things might have been lacking?
Yeah, it was a little lacking, but I still love these episodes. They're the
Same.
best. But yeah, I had the fortunate timing of the Halloween show is when I was driving back from downstate, so I was able to really just listen the whole way through and really enjoy it. I have a couple takes on the characters, and we can get into that a little bit later when you go through them. But yeah, I mean, it was okay. What do you think? Do you think the show was lackluster?
Well, I think we've been really spoiled. At first, it can be entertaining. Sam's calling in late in his car to start the episode. That could be entertaining. It did give me a laugh out loud moment that is going to be my line of the week. I'll save for later when Sam called in. And that did include a guy telling Sam to tell Jimmy congrats.
Yeah.
We saw to put this out there was a Jim Instagram video where he's trying on costumes. That was great to have Jim doing content on social that plays into the show is great. And I'm sure you could thank Nikki for a lot of that. They came back for the parade break with one of your personal favorites, Chris, Jan Terry's Get Down Goblin.
Of course.
Look, for me, we talked about Soraya. Like, great, she's doing all this video and camera work. She can't throw on a costume? She can't be in a costume contest?
Yeah, I don't know.
Denny? They can't get Denny in the studio?
Well, there could be some corporate rigidity there, bringing people back there. Yeah.
See how tough it was to get Anthony back. So maybe once a lot of big companies, corporations have things where a guy, if their employment's terminated, they can't get back in. So maybe I'm just being so spoiled with the parade in the past.
Yeah.
Denny DJing. I miss those things. The costumes were absolutely amazing. And Soraya did talk about her bodybuilding too.
Yes, absolutely. Before we get there, there's a couple of things I want to hit before we got to the parade, if we will. I thought it was interesting how Sam identified that Travis was even more essy on the phone than he is in the studio, which was great because that's how we hear him, right?
Yeah.
And then, of course, they talked about going trick-or-treating and getting your candy stolen when you're younger. And that really never happened to me. And I want to hear if that happened to you. But I do remember during the summer riding my bike with my friend when I was younger. And these guys, and probably teenagers, looked older to me at that point, but pulled up to us and they had a fire extinguisher filled with water and just sprayed us with and water and just soaked us and took off. So that was kind of getting bullied a little bit, but nothing too bad. How about you? Did you get your candy stolen?
No, I guess we were like, for a while you have your parents with you. We always had a big group. Nothing ever that bad like that. And, Jim and Coop, like Jim, we've heard all these horrible Jim getting bullied stories. Coop was 8 years old. He said he went by himself. Like, I took
Where's his friends? Yeah.
8?
Mm-hmm.
My daughter's 8. That's not happening.
No, I'm just saying, where are your friends?
I know.
Your parents and stuff. Yeah.
So like, I mean, for him to that's terrible.
It is terrible.
Gotta have some parents looking out. So poor little Coop. And I will say, what's back to my point about Soraya. It's great to see all his video work, and I loved hearing about the bodybuilding. But she's so creative, and like, what costume would she have had? I don't know why she wasn't in a costume contest, especially if someone's rolling video already.
Yeah, I mean, she could have done Nikki. She could have come as Nikki, which would have been a good thing because she's been around her for so long and real timely. She could have dressed up as Nikki and came in as that in the costume. I don't know.
Absolutely. Right before we get the costumes here on our breakdowns, she does have an estrogen patch because she's lacking estrogen. And Sam questioned needing estrogen as a bodybuilder. I guess it's for the bones. But
it's the opposite. I mean, if you're bodybuilding, you need that T, right? You need that testosterone to build muscles and stuff. So she's doing the opposite. I don't understand it.
I don't understand. She says she wants to be a professional bodybuilder.
But she can't wear the costume because it's too revealing. I mean,
possibly that's it. She could have been a very hulking figure, and she's probably making good money working for Jim. A lot of work for Jim. So great to hear about Soraya again. Would have loved a costume. But speaking of costumes, I'm gonna say who everyone was, and how about you give the first breakdown, Chris?
You got it. Go ahead.
So we got Jim. Jeff, Geoff, the fireman, master of fish. And of course, you could see all these on Jim and Sam's social media, Instagram and Twitter. Amazing. The pictures were amazing. Montone, the Hulkster. Him or maybe someone else might have been the best for me. Troy and Travis, joint costume. Gino and Jasmine from 90 Day Fiancé. Coop, Taylor Swift. Hot Dog, Negan, and The Fiend. And Sam was the killer from Happy Death Day. Who would you say was your best? who were you maybe disappointed with?
All right. So of course, my actually best, if you just judge it on the costume and the portrayal, was Montone as Hulk. He was great. He stayed in character. He kind of even improvised. And if you look at the picture, I mean, obviously he's built. He looks great, but it was good. It looked really good. So he's my favorite. However, Jim made me laugh so much because Jeff the Fireman, Master of Fish, it's so weird. It is so odd and it's so Jim, and it makes me laugh so hard because it's so creative. It's out there and it's stupid, and I loved every minute of it. So if it was I guess it was better that it was a shitty, crappy costume. Sorry about the S word, guys. But it was probably better that it was a bad costume because it just fit in with the thing. But of course, we know who's the worst. We always know who the worst is. Hot Dog. He just doesn't get how to do this. And in being the worst, I really enjoyed it. What do you think?
I don't think he deserves that much criticism this year.
Oh, geez.
He has a costume and he looked hilarious. Like, I mean, before it's usually last minute Henny Potter stuff that is just a very feeble last minute attempt and an insult to the show. Not only did he have Negan, he looked amazing.
From what, 7 years ago when that was cool?
Still a costume that's still so much better. Geez. We have Jim, hilarious. He loved the concept. He was at a costume shop and just got a plastic helmet and a fish. So I think it was a step up for Hot Dog. Led to the amazing James Brown break, and he also had a backup, The Fiend, which was maybe not as good, but he at least had stuff. He
gave it some thought.
How many Halloween parades, how many Secret Santas has he not even had anything? So I don't think he deserved. I think it was a step up. I think he should be recognized as such. I think Coop looked hilarious as Taylor Swift. Absolutely hilarious.
Yeah, for sure.
So yeah, I know I'm saying that it was lacking this year. The costumes were great. The visuals made it for me. Jim, Montone had the funniest stuff to say, to no surprise, in costume. Troy and Travis, pretty funny. I love that Travis, he was a what do you call it? Girl before. You know what I mean?
Oh, a viscous girl. The
Visco?
Vis. I don't know, but turtles and the straws and the whole thing.
So he's not afraid to dress as a lady, which Jim probably loved.
Jim actually liked both characters. He had Travis as a lady. He had young Coop as a lady with red lipstick. So Jim was all in.
Yes. So great costumes. I would have loved to see Soraya get a costume.
Who's your worst?
I think worst.
I thought you might come with this as your worst, and he probably should get it. Sam. It was just a mask. I know these not really.
It was just a mask. It could have been a little funnier, maybe something that was talked a lot about on the show.
Yeah,
but, that's what he's into. He likes horror movies, so I mean,
that's true.
Fine. Maybe I think that's not a bad bet for the worst. But interesting, this year the host took themselves out of the contest, which is fair. To give everyone else a chance there, and avoid some bad talk amongst employees. So yeah, that's our take on the Halloween parade. Amazing. I listened twice. I loved it. I just missed Denny. Wants Soraya to get a costume next year. Moving on here, I guess a little spooky and perhaps smelly. They did talk about. Was this with a guest? Chris? It was. They got into houses it was actually hot dog talk, as I recall now. Smelly houses and smelly kids. Did you have those growing up?
Oh God, yes. So that house on the block that just kind of smells when you walk by it, and I remember it. His pants, and maybe that wasn't from taking care of the wiping situation or whatnot, but the kid just stunk, and I felt bad for him. And how about you? Did you have a smelly house or a smelly kid?
No, there were plenty of kids that stood out for various reasons. They get nicknames and stuff, but smelly, I don't remember. And which I'm glad, because I'm someone, as much as I can be as big a jerk or a sassy pants as the next guy, I do get a lot of empathy and feel very bad for people if they smell real bad or something. Like, oh no, that poor guy, so yeah. I'm glad I don't remember that. Houses, I don't really remember any hoarders. The smells in houses would be something like curry for me, like an ethnic
Gotcha. Yeah,
food. It's
more
not.
of a food. Yeah.
It's a strong smell. It might be strange, to myself or to people that aren't accustomed to that, but it's not a smelly house. It's just a.
I'll tell you this: a good smelly house. I remember this, and give credit to my 92-year-old mother who turns 92 here in a couple weeks. Actually, walking home from school, and if she was making spaghetti, you could actually smell it 2 blocks away. I'm not kidding. I'm like, oh, she's making spaghetti. I can smell it. I don't know how. I don't know how we were able to smell it. Just had that in us. So that was a good smelly house.
Speaking of mom spaghetti, Eminem is making mom spaghetti sauce and he's selling it from Detroit. That probably will make it on the show next week. They like mom spaghetti.
I just hope people don't start, showing videos of themselves throwing up on their sweaters.
Oh no, that might be a viral trend. You might be ahead of that. I think one of the great news items they broke down this week, and this terrifies me. I want to get your take, but the Alaska Airlines pilot and I didn't read this story. Maybe you know more than I do about it. They took mushrooms and tried to crash the plane. Had to be subdued by the other pilot. Is that?
Yeah, he was a pilot. He was catching a ride. I think they call it deadheading, where you catch a ride going to another place. So he's in the in the cockpit sitting with those guys, one of those jump seats. Gets up and tries to turn off the engines, because if there's a flame, if they have fire in there, they have automatic cutoffs for the engines. And obviously, as a pilot, he would know that, and tried to jump up and turn those off. And the other pilots subdued him, and they got him back in the thing. And he's like, "You guys should handcuff me because I'm not in my right mind," kind of thing. So, yeah, I mean, like Jim said, it's not an excuse if you're under the influence or you're on drugs or something. But man, it's scary.
It's weird. And, there's just kind of trend. I don't know if you've seen this, Chris, where former athletes that may have had head trauma are advocating for mushrooms to heal head trauma. Like, if that works, great. Head trauma is a very serious thing. But if it doesn't, and you're trying to crash a plane, mushrooms to me are still a little.
You can have bad trips, right?
Potent. What's that?
You can have a bad trip on mushrooms.
Yeah,
it could be totally something weird and taking a different direction. Yeah, I also heard, of course, we know the Oxycontin and those horrible, opioid drugs and having, addictions to that. The boys even talked about that, I think, last week, and how addictive those are and how quickly they are. That using marijuana to manage your pain is usually a better choice if you can do it. So there's other alternatives out there, but boy, mushrooms scare me. I've never partaken. I don't think I want to.
Make sure before you guys take anything, consult with Chris and I and your dad.
Yeah, as you can tell, two dads are your best guide for partying in the 2000s and 20s.
All right, getting to this, it is so amazingly refreshing to hear Mike Montone doing Man on the Street, New York Comic-Con. Just perfect. My God, we've heard so many good Man on the Streets over the years. Being at Chip at Comic-Con, or I think Mike did another one, but hearing Mike ask these people dressed as villains or heroes about the woke mind virus, about
current events, what they do.
Yeah, and the kind of Jeffrey Epstein stuff. I mean, how great is it to hear him just do his thing? And maybe after the Halloween parade, the best part of the week, I think.
Yeah, so I think Montone wins the week in our book, right?
Awesome. Yeah, I think so.
He's best. This is what he's best at. He is extremely funny. He has such a great vocabulary. He's relentless. He doesn't let these people squirm out of anything. He just keeps on hammering. He probably got that from his father, right? Being that incredible journalist for 1010 wins. So yeah, I love Mike in this role. He's hilarious. He doesn't break character, and it's perfect. It's exactly what has made him in the past and what I really wish he would do more of. I'm glad we got it this week.
That was incredible. Should definitely go back and listen if you haven't heard. Getting to best guests. We had 3 guests this week: Jeff Leach, Paul Mercurio, Jeremiah Watkins. How would you weigh in on those, Chris, and who was the best for you?
Yeah, it was pretty good. Jeff, I didn't know Jeff too much. Have you seen Jeff before?
No, I haven't. He knew a lot about stand-up and gym, so I was kind of into that one right away.
So yeah, Jeff is doing what is not a show; it's a spectacular, which I guess is has a lot of different things into it. Where he's got some music and some rapping and some other things. So he's built this whole kind of thing up, and I kind of interested to see what it looks like. He talked about his interesting time, doing streaming, for Twitch, playing video games and all that kind of stuff. He said like 14 hours a day.
Yeah.
And it's like 5 days a week to build this audience and this money. It's like, that was really crazy for me.
Yeah.
And then he got Jim a gift for he and his wife when he got married there. He gave him matching pink hats with pom-poms. So hopefully you get to see those in a video soon. And what was kind of fun is that Jeff totally is right in there with Quanstra Dumbass's thoughts on everything that's going on in the world. He is with Troy, boom, lock, stock, and barrel on that. And then they talked a little bit about Naked Attraction. So that was kind of cool because we got a little depth in there. Of course, Jeremy Watkins came in with Paul Mercurio, and Jeremy had an interesting sister. Do you want to tell us about what the sister was known for?
Jeremiah's sister did engaged in similar things to Troy with, I guess what you would call poop play.
Poop play, or maybe a code brown smear on a wall as a teenager. Just crazy. Jim's like, what a good girl. She's all in, just crazy.
And I think that led to Troy's confession. Was it Troy or one of his friends? I think it was one of
No, it was Mr. Kwan himself that did a code brown in a urinal.
In a urinal. Like, how many times
make his friends laugh.
That's the thing in grade school. You walk in and you see a dookie in a urinal, and
like, what is this? Why would you do this? It's like the upper decker.
Oh man, crazy. That was quite the revelation. That also made me laugh out loud this week.
And then we had Paul, right? And Paul Mercurio was doing this really audience involved show where they're doing this unboxing kind of thing. And Frank Oz, the voice behind Yoda and all these things, is an incredible director, and he's directing it. So that was cool. And then they talked about, the famous people you might have Thanksgiving with, which is really cool. And Jim said, yeah, he had Thanksgiving with, who was it? I know it was I'm just blanking on his name. Comedian, Louis C.K.'s house.
Yes.
It was
the story before.
It was was it with
passed away, right?
The famous comedian who passed away, who had the show, who we loved. Oh God. Anyway, we're stupid. We forget things. I forgot
the name. Yeah, the one is the actor who overdosed on heroin a few years ago. I think was also at I think it was that one, but he had Thanksgiving at Louis' apartment too one time. These stories mixed up, maybe, I don't know.
So let's go through it all here. Who was your best guest, and then I'll give you mine.
I think for me it was Jeff. I mean, weighing in on the naked dating show, knowing about Jim, bringing a gift. I thought he was very funny. Paul, so we have a little time. Paul's show, like, you work with comedians sometimes behind the scenes. Paul's show, like, great, innovative, that's super risky if you're a professional comedian or performer. Just hand your show over to people off the street. Like, I don't know if they're vetted before and have to, like, outline their story. It sounds like a risky show to me.
Yeah, he really brings the audience in and just kind of talks to them and has them, and you might get some duds. We've had, I've had duds in interviews. You've had duds that you had to interview and you had to pull teeth, right?
Yes.
So can you imagine trying to be funny? It's just, ugh.
Yeah. So Jeff, for me, I think was the best. How about you?
I fully agree. Jeff was interesting. I've never heard him before. Love British accents anyway. I think he's British, right? And so yeah, he had some really great things to say, and very cool, and actually kind of leads into my line of the week at when we get there. So I'll share that.
Nice. So getting to line of the week, did you have finalists or you just have that one?
I do have finalists, if you don't mind me kind of going through there.
Go for it.
One of them that I did like is they were talking about shipping items, right? Where, you get something shipped to you, or getting something, that you ship out. And Jim got something shipped to him, a poster. What a surprise. That was damaged by the United States Post Office. And he was so upset. And they're talking about that. And Jim was talking about his post office, carrier that brings out his mail to him. And he goes, my mail lady, she's really nice. And Jim said, yeah, me too. But Jim's not talking about a mail lady, M-A-I-L. He's talking about M-A-L-E, which was so quick and very funny. And if you're in on it, you got it really quick. So that was cool. This next one takes a little setup, but it was really good for me. They were also talking about, if Jim would have kids. Jeff was there, and they found out that, Jeff was engaged to be married, and they asked if he would have kids. And he said he wanted to, but he wasn't too sure now because the world is so messed up. And we've talked about that. And, how it's just in a bad situation. And Sam said, well, you gotta bring the good into the world that would change a bad situation, bring these kids in there that are going to be good and change it, And Jeff was like, I don't know. And Sam said, well, who's in the world that's going to make it good? Jim out of nowhere goes, Sabbath. So, of course, Jim's not interested in kids. He's interested in Black Sabbath. So he just throws out Sabbath. And that was just out of left field and very funny because that's, to Jim, what's good in the world. What do you got?
Probably feels that way. I can't argue with that. Ozzy is the man. So I want to share a finalist as well this week. Actually,
nice. You usually don't do finalists.
No,
that's cool.
But because I kind of mentioned it earlier, when I didn't break down Sam's call fully because I thought this was my line of the week, but it's not. This was a finalist.
All right.
Is when Sam was on the phone, like parking in the parking garage, then he was going to get up to the building in the show. Jim is screaming, I can't believe you think something like, I can't believe you think all parking lot attendants are scum. You said parking lot attendants are scum. That was going to be my line of the week. Jim was also yelling white power into the phone while Sam was
hilarious.
Upon 2 listens, I was absolutely cracking up at the second listen. That was my runner up. My winner would be at Comic-Con, said by Mike Montone while he was interviewing the Riddler. The Riddler, Mike first told the Riddler that he will be held accountable for his actions. And Riddler said, well, they're going to have to find me. And Montone, without missing a beat, Norton Quickness goes, we found you right now.
We found you right here. We found you right now. I'm interviewing you.
So it was amazing. Everyone in the studio cracked up. Again, amazing job by Montone.
Very good. Going back to your finalists, I remember in college when we'd order pizza. We're poor college kids that whoever got the pizza delivered to their room was like, aren't you going to tip him? You got to tip him, man. You make too much money. Why aren't you sharing some of that with the poor delivery guy? You got to, just giving the guy grief that he has to tip more than typical.
It's amazing.
Yeah.
Nothing like a good yell in the background during a serious call. Now, great takes for line of the week for the Halloween parade. You have a new project. I want to let you mention here.
Thanks, brother. Yeah. So it's not a new project as much as it's an addition to a project that we're already working on. My brother and I are recording a special episode of our World War II dad, and it's to honor other veteran stories. A lot of our viewers and listeners kind of sent in these stories. We interviewed a couple. We got some of these stories that we're going to be sharing, and it's going to be released on Wednesday, November 1st, right in time for Veterans Day. So Veterans Day is the 11th of November. And that's kind of a special time for my family, too, because, Veterans Day is November 11th. My dad passed away on November 12th, and my mom's 92nd birthday is November 13th. So it's an incredible weekend for our family. So we're going to get this new podcast out there. I will put the link in the comments of both the YouTube version of this podcast as well as on Spotify and Apple. If anybody's interested, I would appreciate a listen. When that comes out in November 1st. But thanks, brother. Yeah, I'm looking forward to it.
Awesome. Good luck with that. Everyone check it out. If you haven't yet, those other episodes are amazing. Just great job.
Thanks, man.
His brother, just awesome stuff, especially when you guys interviewed your mom. So thanks for everything you do for our show, Chris, and thanks for everybody for checking out and watching and listening.
Yeah, it's a special time on the Jim and Sam show. Very cool things happening. Now, I know Jim's going to be on the cruise. The guys aren't going to be in next week, but I think we may have a special guest. We're working on it right now, so stay tuned for that. But that's going to be really fun, and it's always fun and even spooky in the town square.
Thanks for watching and listening to the Jim and Sam Town Square. Please remember to like and subscribe and turn on that notification bell, not dog bell, so you don't miss an episode.
And if you're just listening to the podcast, please leave us a 5-star review. We really appreciate it.